Hey, what's up, guys? I've got some news to share with you that I am extremely excited about. And as you probably might have already figured out by reading the title of this video or by checking the thumbnail, I have joined 11th Hour Games to help make their game Action RPG called Last Epoch. And I'm not just like an alpha tester, I'm actually being paid. Yes. So I guess I'm officially EHGKarv now. And while I'm talking about this stuff, I'll just give you some gameplay footage. I'm not very used to having a full screen cam. Feels weird. So yeah, let's do that. Okay, we got some background stuff going there. But before I get into other details about the game and my role in it, let's cover the thing that you'll probably be thinking about right now. So what does this mean to me and PoE? My streaming, my content, YouTube, etc. in general. And to put very shortly, streams, YouTube, etc. is not going anywhere anytime in the foreseeable future. And I'm actually working on some pretty nice stuff for you PoE guys that you might have seen some teasers in the Twitter recently. And this isn't a full-time job position, though it could change in the future. We'll see. And I will be primarily still be streaming, most likely gonna be Path of Exile, at least in the very recent future, and creating content in general. Though, now that I have made this announcement, I can finally stream Last Epoch again, and not feel like I would be trying to deceive you guys to support the game, because now I can just have a disclaimer that I'm part of the team, right? So that's nice. Expect some Last Epoch streams in the future. And I've actually been doing this for a couple months already, and it hasn't really reflected on my streaming time. I have streamed whenever and however much I wanted. But if you've been wondering what the quite random late EU night, oh, I got this one thing I gotta go for, has been, well, those have been different meetings that I wanted to take part in for Last Epoch's development. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And when it comes to PoE, I actually did have to make a sacrifice. That does hurt a bit. So I'm no longer part of the alpha testing group due to obvious conflict of interest, right? Like, it wouldn't really sound pretty like good to have someone who's working for another company making a game in the same genre that has access to unreleased content or giving feedback about it in closed forums. So it only makes sense that I don't have the access to it anymore. I emailed Chris about this, and we decided that it's the best way to go about it. So can we finally bury the memes that I have completed everything in a league before it's launched because of the alpha? Okay, thank you. Good. And when I will be streaming Last Epoch, I will be doing it as myself, not from the behalf of the team. So when I asked if I have to censor my thoughts on stream about things, obviously I'm not going to be talking about things that, you know, aren't public. So I was told, why would I? And for reference, when Last Epoch was sponsoring this in the past, when he was doing a sponsor stream, and this asked, can he, you know, be like himself and give feedback the way he wants? The guys said that if he wants to, he can literally shit on the game. So yeah, that's pretty nice. So I will be speaking my mind same way I would do in internal meetings. And now that we have that out of the way, I want to quickly talk about 11th Hour Games and why I'm so excited to be part of the team. So let's start with I guess a very short summary of the history. The development of the game initially started with Judd Kobler, who was a huge RPG fan and the game's director, being not completely satisfied with the what the ARPG genre had to offer. So around the start of the second quarter of the 2017, I think, yeah, around like April, I think, he started to look for people with the same mindset and talent in the correct areas, like, you know, user interface, art development, music, etc. And he actually used Reddit a lot in the process of finding these people, as he scored through like relevant subreddits. So without Reddit, I might not actually be here talking about this for you guys right now, or the game might not actually be happening. And it's really a fascinating to dig through the start of the 11th Hour Games Last Epoch. You can easily find stuff by just like googling Judd Kobler and like Last Epoch or 11th Hour Games. Highly recommend. And ever since I heard about the game when they launched Kickstarter a year after when Judd originally started to look for people with this, and this is like a year and a half ago, yeah, the way the devs communicate with the player base so openly was so amazing. It felt like the players were like part of the team from the beginning. And the official Discord server, I think the only way I can describe it is just vivid. And the devs are constantly communicating with the player base there. And during even the Kickstarter demo, which didn't have much hours to put in, the story was very short. There were a few game systems that really piqued my interest. Like, it made me just think that this game is just an all unpolished diamond waiting to become great, right? And the first one was crafting. So Last Epoch has a deterministic crafting system where you can add components or modifiers to your items, and these modifiers, they drop as loot, but most of the time, and especially the rare mods, you can only obtain by extracting those modifiers from items that you find. And then you add those to existing items. For example, if you find an item with a life roll, for example, if you find an item with a life roll, you can split it into pieces or like extract the modifiers from it and destroying the item in the process. Now you have a shard, or can have a shard, that you can use to forge an existing item and increasing a tier of a life modifier to a next tier. And every time you do something like this to an item, it increases the chances of it fracturing, and fracturing means that the item is no longer craftable. You can disassemble and fracture the item for more material to craft later, but you can't like defracture the item and continue crafting it. And there's other stuff that I could talk about that excites me too a lot, but I think this is gonna be too long already, so I'm just gonna skip that part of the itemization. But yeah, getting an item with the perfect tiers of mods and top of that perfect rolls within the tier, it's gonna be extremely difficult. And the second thing is the skill system. Each and every skill that you have, or your class has its own skill tree, which you can augment when it levels up, so you can like specialize in it. And there's a cap of 5 specializations at any given point in time. Well, at the start you start with like 0 and then you get 1, etc. But it caps at 5. And I really like the system because it's not super overwhelming. Like for example PoE system currently is. But at the same time, there's a lot of customization and there's a lot of different skills, and 2 different shamans, for example, which is a mastery of a primalist, can have literally the same skills with the same gear and the same passive tree, but have completely different specialization and like on their skills that makes them play completely different. And you can despecialize skills. You can even like take like de-level them by taking like single points out. But when you complete the despecialized skill, then you have to level it up again. So you can't swap your like skills and builds around immediately. There's like a tiny bit of extra time put into it because you have to level them again. So it's not free respecing at will. And then on top of that, you can respec the passive skill tree as well with in-game currency. So that isn't free either. And now that I'm talking about the passive skill tree, there are 5 base classes. So there's Mage, Rogue, Primalist, Sentinel, and a Acolyte. And each of them has 3 extra mastery classes that they can master too, kind of like in PoE's Ascending. And this unlocks new stats, new skills that are only limited to that class, and each of these mastery classes has its own passive tree, and by doing the mastery you unlock more points, or like you unlock more. How could I say this? You unlock the whole tree instead of just like having half of it. And while you can respec individual points within the mastery trees, and you can actually split your points evenly in different masteries, even if you're mastered to a specific class, you don't actually have to use the points in that tree. But the mastery cannot be undone. So when you do master to a class, that character will stay as that forever. So all of this combined makes it so that your actions have kind of feeling of permanency, even though it's not like that in all cases. And I think it's a very important feeling to have in games, in my opinion. So shamans just don't feel shamans. Not every shaman is the same, right? So not only do I feel at home when it comes to like the vision and like the game systems, there's a lot of in the end game that's gonna come too, and even now there's 2 practically endlessly scaling end games. There's an arena that has waves, and then there's a monolith of faith, which is basically you do singular zones, and then you add mods on top of them whenever you complete more zones. And there's gonna be more. But yeah, as I was about to mention, their monetization system is also something like while ideally I believe the game should be free to play, there's a lot of reasons why having a paywall to play the game is also a good idea. Like, for one, players investing some money to the game makes them actually more invested, so they give it a proper try instead of just playing for 2 minutes and it's like, yep, nope. And the other reason is cheating. You have much worse repercussions for being caught. And I believe the game will cost 15 USD once it launches next year. But you can already buy it into the beta if you want to, and if you want to support the game and its development. I think it's 35 USD. Obviously, there's regional difference in the prices. And there will be a free demo that you can play without actually needing to buy the game. But I'm not sure about the exact details about that. So I'm not going to talk about that, because I literally just don't know. And now we get to the good part. There will be nothing that can be argued to be pay to win. For example, stash tabs are both with in-game currency. And Last Epoch will have seasons, like PoE's challenge leagues, and I think the current plan is to call them cycles. And the great thing from my perspective about this system is that, at least currently, the plan is to not land these cycles on top of PoE's leagues. So I can, play some PoE. And now that you know a bit about the company, its ideologies, and the game, what's my role in all of this? I guess technically I am Q&A, so quality assurance. However, it doesn't entirely feel like that, because I'm in a lot of meetings where game design, itemization, and skills are being talked and iterated in. So I'm not just testing if something works or doesn't. And other than taking part in those discussions, I'm testing skills. I also just play the game a lot and give high-level feedback, which can include anything and everything from how classes feel, passive trees, end-game balance, and so forth. Yep, you heard that right, guys. I might be able to slam your future overpowered builds down with the nerf hammer. And one thing that I would like is that guys don't call me a developer, because I feel like that would be just spitting on the people who are actually putting all the hard legwork with the code and everything, implementing all of the things in reality. And I didn't quite cover... Really? And I didn't quite cover everything about the game, so in the description and in the comments, as a pinned comment, I've provided some useful links if you're interested. Yeah, I thank you for watching. I hope you are even a 1% as excited of the game as I am, because, like I mentioned earlier, I think this is just the unpolished diamond waiting to be great.